I'm your host, Jason Raznick, founder of Benzinga, a leading platform in the financial world with the mission to level the playing field for individual investors. And this is the Raz Report podcast, where we share inspiring stories, expert advice, and exclusive perspectives to keep you ahead of the ever-changing world of investments and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into the show.
All right, welcome to this edition of the Raz Report. We're keeping this one, I think, fun and how you can make more money by saving on taxes. We had one last week and we have one more this week. Tom Wheelwright, CEO of WealthAbility, that's WealthAbility, and he's going to tell you how to, save money, live a tax-free life maybe. Not fully, but I'll give you some tricks and trades. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be with you, Jason.
Yeah, so taxes can be a very boring subject to people. How do you make it interesting, and why is it so important we pay attention to taxes?
Well, it is your single biggest expense, so probably something to pay attention to. And it's the easiest one to reduce, actually. I always say the fastest way to put money in your pocket is reduce your taxes. The challenge people have is that they've been told to be afraid of it, that it's too complicated, it's scary. The IRS is scary. So, don't try to do anything. If you can get a little money under the table, that's okay. So basically we call that cheating. That's okay. But, it's too hard. It's too hard to deal with. And what I discovered over the years, I've been in this business 45 years, is that the tax law is fundamentally a series of incentives. And really, there's only one line that says all income's taxable unless we say it isn't, and another line that says nothing's deductible unless we say it is. But there's over 6,000 pages of tax law that's basically a roadmap for reducing your taxes. So to me, what makes taxes fun is when you get that first big refund. And actually, if you look at the word refund, fun is right in the middle of it. So I do think that taxes can be fun if you don't take them too seriously, but take them seriously enough to pay attention to them.
Yeah. So there's different tax things, like you got a big truck, you can be tax deductible. When I say that to my accountant, they're like, well, do you use it for work? Or it always finds there's these things you get excited about for saving on taxes, but then there's always things that make it difficult. And I don't know.
Well, so I think the first place to start is that you don't want to spend money to save taxes. That makes no sense. So in other words, buying a big truck just to save taxes, you're still only in a 40 to 50% tax bracket, even if you're in California. So that doesn't make any sense. So you have to want the big truck in the first place, right? Okay. So really, to me, tax planning is all about giving people a choice. Right. So because you're right that there are things the tax law says, if you want to take this benefit, you have to do these things.
Right.
So I always say, like I said in my book, Tax Free Wealth, if you want to change your tax, you have to change your facts. So you have to be willing to change those facts to do what the government wants you to do. And if you're willing to do that, they're willing to give you the tax benefit. If you're not willing to do that, then that's your choice. But unless you understand what those facts are that you can change, you have no choice. You just pay high tax.
Got it. Okay. So, okay, let's go with the truck example. Then we're going to talk about your book and different things you do, but the truck. So how could someone get that tax deductibility for that over whatever the weight is on the truck?
Yeah. So it's 6,000 pounds.
Okay.
So here's the way you would do it. Frankly, you would buy that truck towards the end of the year and you would use it 100% for business that year. Now, you have two choices on how to deduct it. You can take bonus depreciation, which this year is only 60% of the cost, or you can take Section 179, which is 100%. The difference is with bonus depreciation, if you then use it less than 100% the following year, you don't lose any of your deduction. But if in 179, if you took the 179 and then you use it less, you do lose some of your deduction. So there are fine points that you have to understand. That's why you have tax advisors.
Okay. And you're best-known author of the Tax-Free Wealth, How to Build Massive Wealth by Permanently Lowering Your Taxes. What made you write that book? What was the impetus? You have a lot of clients, but what was the reason you wrote that book?
Well, actually, my friend Robert Kiyosaki actually asked me to write it. So Rich Dad Poor Dad author, he and I were friends, and he said, we need a book in the Rich Dad series on taxes. And I thought, well, I've been thinking about the tax law and how it works for a very long time. We'd actually just been through, so it was originally written in 2012. We're on our third edition. And remember, we'd just been through the big stimulus packages through the government because of the 2008, 9, and 10 crashes, right? And so when I started looking at the tax law, I started thinking, well, these are really a series of stimulus packages, primarily for business owners and investors, but for other people as well, but primarily business owners and investors. And so let's just unpack that in a very simple way that the average person can read, can understand it, can digest it, and then take to their tax advisor.
Got it. And so that's how they came about. Now, I know you're close friend of Robert Kiyosaki. You spoke at many of his conferences. What are some things you like about his strategies that appeal to you, and why you guys created a bond?
Well, interestingly enough, the tax law actually supports his strategies because if you think about the government as your partner, the first time you got a paycheck, you noticed that the government was your partner. You probably looked at it and said, who the heck is this FICA person, right? Who's taking all my money? And that's the government. And so you have to choose what kind of partner you are with the government. You can be a silent partner, which most people are, and they just pay their taxes. Or you can be an active partner, do the things the government wants you to do. Well, so Robert's always talking. So his second book, Cash Flow Quadrant, talks about 4 ways to make money, right? Either as an employee, a small business owner, a big business owner, or an investor. And what you find is that how you make your money has a big impact on how much tax you pay. And if you make your money as an employee or self-employed, you're much more likely to pay high taxes than if you make your money as a big business owner or as a professional investor. In fact, professional investors typically pay little or no tax. That's true tax-free wealth, is being a professional investor. That's why Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes. Okay, I did look at his tax returns that were illegally released. I will say I think that it was illegal what happened, but they were released, and I looked at him going, well, he's just being a real estate investor. That's all he is. And real estate investors typically don't pay tax on their income because the government says, if you invest in real estate, we want you to invest in real estate. We will give you enough tax benefits that you will have additional capital to invest more money back into real estate. And that's all the government's saying.
Mm-hmm. And by being the thing with real estate is, it has to be your primary job, right? Like that's how you get that extra depreciation.
Right. Okay. So there, again, this is where a good tax advisor can help, because you're right that somebody whose primary job is real estate, they're going to get all those tax benefits really without even trying. Somebody who is not a professional real estate investor can still get the benefits. It's just more difficult. Okay, it just takes a little more planning, and you just have to do a little more work and have a little bit and a better tax advisor. But if you do that, then you can still get the benefits. It's the government just says, if you're a real estate professional, we're going to make it easy.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, in your book, when I was reading, so one of the reasons about your book is it's not just appealing to like high sophisticated investors. The average Joe can read your book. You make it very easy to read. Is that who you're trying to appeal to?
For sure. I want the average business owner to be able to use the law the way it's intended to reduce their taxes legally, ethically, and morally. And the average business owner doesn't have access to the high-powered tax advisors,
right?
That the rich have access to. And so, how do they get this? Well, first of all, their tax advisors haven't read the law deeply enough, don't understand the law well enough to really be able to do this for them. And so what I find is that typically an entrepreneur, business owner will buy tax-free wealth. They will then take it to their tax advisor and say, can we do these things? The tax advisor will always say, yes, of course we can. My question is, well, why didn't you do them in the first place? But it's because they really didn't understand the law. The average tax advisor, unfortunately, does not understand the law. And so I want to make it simple so that both the tax advisor and the business owner, first, that they can both understand the law, but also that they can communicate with each other, because, taxes and accounting, it's a whole different language.
Yeah, absolutely. So your clients for WealthAbility, what type of clients do you have for that one?
So they're business owners. They're all business owners. So they can be anywhere from somebody just starting out. So we actually have a franchise called the TFW Advisors. And we have some franchisees that handle people just starting out, and we have other franchisees that handle very sophisticated investors. So that's the whole idea of a franchise, is that you can have people concentrate on different types of clients, but the commonality is they're all business owners.
Got it. So it can be, it's someone who has a few $1 million and figuring out how to better utilize your taxes.
Doesn't have to be that. Can be somebody who drives for Uber, frankly. Okay. Anybody who's independent and an independent business owner and is an entrepreneur. Yeah.
So you're taking all income levels.
We are. I'm more interested in how engaged you are in the process than I am in how much money you make.
And what do you mean by engaged? What's that mean?
Well, because what I said earlier is, if you want to change your tax, you have to change your facts. I can't change your facts. I can tell you what facts you need to change, but I can't do it for you. I can't do the documentation. You have to do those things. So it has to be a partnership between your tax advisor, like myself, and you. You have to work together. You can't just say, well, my tax guy handles that. That will never work. Got
it. Okay. And then what do you feel about business owners putting their kids on payroll?
I think as a tactic, that's a great tactic. Because here's the thing. You're in a high tax bracket. Your kids are in a zero tax bracket for the first $14,000. So if the kids can legitimately do something in your business, whether it's social media, marketing, even, if you're let's say you're a pediatrician, you can have them be models for you, but there's always something you can have your kids do. I like it in part because I grew up in a family business, and my kids are both in my business. So I like having kids in the business. I think the government wants your kids to be involved in your business. In fact, if you do it right, you can actually pay your kids and they won't even pay Social Security taxes. So if they're under 18, so you can pay your kids, get a tax deduction, and not pay Social Security taxes. To me, that says that's something the government really wants you to do.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Because I think they see the value. Think about it. You've got kids who are learning how to work. They're learning the family business. They're getting an education outside of school. They're going to become financially independent. Those are all things that are beneficial to society.
Okay. No, that's interesting. So that's another tip. And you have your own blog, Tom's blog post. You have over 270 on WealthAbility, where you write up all these things. So you're passionate about cutting your taxes.
I am. I'm passionate about actually becoming financially free from the government employers in Wall Street. That's what I'm passionate about. And the easy part is getting financially free from the government. Okay, so you're not giving them more money than you have to. I'm not saying I would actually, I deplore cheaters, absolutely deplore them. Okay, because there's no need to cheat. Once you understand the law, you can pay very little tax and absolutely never, ever cheat and never have to worry about the IRS. So it's people who cheat just don't understand the law. They just don't think they have another choice.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. For Robert Kiyosaki, what are some of the lessons that he implores in people, that you think are most valuable so people can understand?
So one of my favorite ones is he said that he and his wife made a pact early on that they would never say, I can't afford that. What they would do instead is they would say, okay, what's the asset I have to buy to produce the cash flow to pay for whatever trinket I want, whether it's a car, house, whatever it is. And so they always buy an asset to pay for what he calls the liability, which is the as he calls them, a doodad, right? But you can have a, for example, real estate pay for your skybox. You could have a business that pays for your kids' education. There's you can always have an asset that pays for that expense. And what I like about that in particular is that those assets that he's talking about typically produce great tax benefits as well. So whether it's real estate or agriculture or energy, I mean, the business, these are all things that the government has huge incentives for. And so you're investing in something the government wants you to do, you're paying less tax, and you're producing cash flow that can pay for whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay. And that's, so one of the big points you're making here is, if you want to buy that expensive car or whatever that is, a house, try to make that income from an asset that you can find.
Yeah. As an example, in my second book, Win-Win Wealth Strategy, in the last chapter, chapter 9, I actually give an example of a client of mine, real client, use his name, and he actually got the government effectively to pay for his Ferrari. And that's what he did. He went out and bought assets, and the assets paid for the Ferrari. But actually, the tax benefit was so great from the investment in the real estate that the government literally, paid the expense of the Ferrari.
Okay. So now the next question is, how do you go find those assets? Again, we're with Tom Wheelwright, WealthAbility. How do you go find those assets?
Well, so most people are under the mistaken impression that the way you make money through investing is to diversify, and that is false. That's a false narrative. That's the way you protect an asset. That's not the way you make money with an asset. The way you protect assets is to diversify. But if you haven't made your money, the way to make money is to focus and be very, niche driven. So niche will make you rich, right? And so we actually teach our clients how to decide what type of asset they should invest in based on what they want to do, right? So like I've tried stock investing. I don't like stock investing, not interested in it. So it's not a good fit for me. I do some real estate, do a lot of energy because I like energy. I think it's a really interesting area and I've gotten to know it really well, but you have to get to know it really well. But every type of investment is good for a good investor and bad for a bad investor. Okay. There are no good and bad asset classes. There's only good and bad investors. And so really it's a matter of getting educated, really getting focused on what you do, create those criteria for investing and then make a single decision and apply that decision over and over again. That's the difference between a professional investor and an amateur investor. An amateur investor is making a new decision every time they invest.
Okay. So when you say invest in energy, how do you go about investing in energy then? Like that, I mean, I'm just trying to, like, if someone's listening to this podcast, like, okay, Tom, that's awesome. How do they make the first?
Well, so there are actually public offerings of oil wells.
Okay.
You can invest in oil and gas in a public offering. So you don't even have to be an accredited investor. You can go invest in a public offering of an oil and gas development. Then you're actually own the oil well. Okay. You own a portion of the oil well. You can own a portion of a solar farm. You can put solar equipment on your office building. You can put solar equipment on your house. Okay. That's investing in energy.
Yeah. And the oil well, so that's a real thing. Like I get those sometimes emails about investing in an oil well. I just never knew if it was a real thing.
I've invested in oil wells for 40 years. So yes.
And so it's been great. I wish there was a way that you filter how you know if it's a good one versus a bad one. I mean, obviously that's your niche is make riches. I get that. And so you know what you're talking about.
That's really what it is. And having good advisors around you, have somebody who can help you with the due diligence, because there are a lot of swindlers out there for sure. They want to take your money and they don't even have an oil well. They just have a nice brochure. So you've got to be really careful. I mean, oil is attracts a lot of challenging individuals, let me say. And there are a lot of swindlers out there, lots. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah. And they all sound good. And it's,
yep, they do.
Okay.
And they lead with, but look at the great tax benefit. So that's why I say, don't ever let the tax tail wag the investment dog.
Yeah. But there is some tax benefits there. I know that.
Oh yeah.
You can make bonus
huge.
And, and then there's things like, I don't know if opportunity zones are still big, but that was a thing in the past. So if people want to learn more about you, Tom, or become a client, what should they do?
So go to our website, tfwadvisors.us.
T is in Tom, F is in Frederick, W is in Wheelright.
TFW as in tax-free wealth. Okay, so tfwadvisors.us. And our advisors, you can actually learn about the advisors. You can choose an advisor. We can choose them for you, whatever you'd like us to do.
Okay. And then would you also, it's on your site, but put up his site, WealthAbility. If someone already has an accountant, could they send you their filings from last year and you take a look?
Absolutely. Happy to.
You do that a lot?
We do that all the time. We do that every day.
Does it matter what income bracket you are at?
Well, yeah. If you're in a zero income tax bracket, we're not going to save you any tax. Okay.
Are you looking?
We do get those.
Are you looking for people from 200,000 or 50,000 to 2 million? What's the niche, I guess?
Yeah. So the niche typically is 100,000 to 100 million.
Okay.
It's pretty wide.
So you're taking the HNWs, the high net worth.
We take those, but we also take the average business owner that's making $200,000 or $300,000 a year. That's our bread and butter is somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 a year.
Okay, no, this is great, guys. Check out WealthAbility.com. Tax-free wealth. It's tfwadvisors.com. If you care about saving on your biggest expense in life, usually taxes. I wanted to move to Puerto Rico to get my taxes lower, but my wife and kids, I don't know. Anyway,
that is an option for some people.
That's right. I could have done it.
I have clients who have moved.
Are they happy?
Yeah, but they don't have kids and they don't have, there are communities down there that are American, basically mainland communities of rich Americans.
I know where I was at it. I was at it. Whatever that, it's amazing. There's the Rich Reserve right there. It's an amazing area. But yeah, we didn't do it. I can't believe how low the taxes are though. It's not fair. So
it's 4%.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair.
It's 4%. It's another incentive. It's just an incentive to build the Puerto Rican economy.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And when you get taxes on dividends and stuff, you see, that would be a good place to live. But all right, well, thank you for coming on the Raz Report. Again, we're with Tom Wheelwright. Check out his books. Go on Amazon. They're best-selling books. Got WealthAbility, tax-free wealth. That's tfwadvisors.us. Again, taxes are your most expensive thing you're going to have for the foreseeable years. Why not save money on them and keep the money in your pocket so you can go enjoy yourself? Maybe get nice dinners instead of giving it to Uncle Sam and doing it the legal way. He'll help you. Check him out, Tom Wheelwright. Thank you again for coming on the Raz Report.
Thank you.